Yeah, that's not.
All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. The first thing, we have a couple adjustments to the agenda. The insurance presentation, we're going to do,
Health insurance.
yeah, well, when we talk to Brian Hillier, the insurance broker, we will talk to him at 8 o'clock. So whatever we're doing, we will stop doing and talk to him. And then on unfinished business, overnight trips, there will be no need for golf or swimming, taking those off. All right.
Great.
Now I need a motion to approve the agenda. Curtis and Ryan Schreibvogel. Moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Ryan Ruda, Ryan Schreibvogel. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so do you want to talk about insurance or you want to go to recognition?
Recognitions.
Okay.
It's later on in the agenda, we'll talk about insurance.
So recognitions?
Yes, sir. This is the season of graduation. Well, Randy, these are hot. The mics, Randy. Oh, well.
Hey, Randy.
These are real hot.
Mine's not.
They are real. You want me to just back up when I talk? Or is it too loud if I sit where I normally do? Okay. I apologize for the reverb in the room. I guess it's with the level we need. 'Tis the season of graduation, and so we had our high school graduation. Went off real well. It was a nice event. Told you it's hot. The high school group, Marcia Van John, Jerry, all their people put together a really nice ceremony. It's a really cool thing to watch them as they come across the connections they have, obviously, with the individual teachers. That's really, really cool. Also, they also want to take the opportunity to celebrate publicly the graduation of, ready for this, Dr. Tyler Helton.
Hey!
Tyler finished up his doctorate within the last month, and now he is not that kind of doctor, but he's got his EDD. So congratulations, Tyler. That's it, Matt.
All right. Well, let's move to financials and Mike.
See how loud it is out there?
Okay, on page one of the warrants, American Digital Security, the FOB system that they put in during the summer, we paid for that, $68,641.87. And then on page two, High Plains Co-op, we had two different aids coming through, one for $102,098.68 and the other one for $93,045. And at the bottom of page two, the new Suburban that you guys approved in our special board meeting, $63,739.95.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
And then on page three, site one, landscape supplies, $30,574.29, which were the mowers, the robot mowers. So a total of $716,171.74 for warrants this month. And then on page six, our revenue expense accounts. We're doing okay with the revenue. We will be getting more tax money here in the next few weeks. And then page seven, our expense summary, where we expect to be at this time in our budget. We're looking pretty good for the end of the year. And then after that's our transfers and then the high school and middle school reports. So if you have any questions.
If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financials at $716,171.74.
So moved.
Second.
Jill, was it Ryan Ruda and Jill? Moved and seconded to approve the financials. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, no public patron concerns, so we'll move to administrative reports and Dr. Myers.
All right, you got about 4 things to talk to you about. As you guys are well aware, we've got the whole new capacity setting thing we've had to do. We have to open up the enrollment for the non-residents starting June 1 through June 30. But, we had to set our capacity at, how many kids could we take per grade level. So in order to figure that out, we needed to get as many Indigenous kids enrolled as quickly as possible to figure it out. So we opened enrollment officially in April. And I'm very pleased to say the advertising worked. We don't have 100% enrolled, but last I spoke with last week at HES, they're down to 25 students left who they expect to come back. WES was down to 20 students left who they expect to come back. The younger grades usually respond more quickly to certain things. Now, what is it now? 16 now at WES. Way to win, WES. So we don't have 100% of what we need, but we're getting closer. And the challenge on this is people who have never been a non-resident student, if you sleep and live in our confines, you get to come in. That's all there is to it. And so people generally don't think about enrollment till mid-July, hey, isn't school coming? And so we're asking them to think differently and enroll early. And so that's a celebration as far as I'm concerned. I think it's worked, but we're not finished. The secretaries are involved, are in the process of calling all the families who we think should be coming and saying, hey, time to enroll. Come and enroll, please. All that being said, it is possible, I'm not going to say feasible, but it's possible that we get done and we go into the non-residents and we look at each grade level and say, we have a spot for 6 kids in 3rd grade. So we bring them in because the law says we have to if they hit the criteria. And then we get past July 15, or June 30 actually, and they're all in, told them they're in. And then a family moves in with extra 3rd graders. Well, if they live in Holcomb, they're in. What we've now done is pop the capacity. So then we have to figure out, well, what do we do about that? Nobody knows what to do about that right now, outside of the fact you're not supposed to be outside the capacity. So I will keep you apprised as that comes along. Chiller and well update. The chiller, kudos to Garrett and his tenacity working with Train. I'll go on record. Local Train workers, good job. We appreciate your efforts. Corporate Train, catch a clue. I don't want to say the word incompetent. Yeah, but I'm going to say the word incompetent. Unreal. So they're going to come out after the last day of school and fix the error that they failed to catch during testing. Not only failed to catch, they sanctioned it, said it's good to go. And it wasn't good to go. Anyway, Garrett worked with them, and we ran half the chiller. And I thought I was comfortable in graduation. I thought it felt good. So good job on that, Garrett. The well, they're coming this week, I think Thursday, you told me, to dig the hole. Because if you recall, we hit water. Did you ever find out how deep?
It was 128, I think.
There you go, Matt, 128. We found water. I do know when it came out, it was like a geyser. It was pretty cool. We're going to arrange it to happen again next year during Big Truck Day. So we have multiple things to look at. Now, that's a success. That's coming along. There's another program to possibly get teachers into the systems. It's called the KSDE Teacher Apprenticeship Program. Garden City Community College is the hub for this in our area. I met with Layla Martinez. I think that's the lady who kind of heads it up for Garden City. I had a good meeting with her, so much so that I went ahead and filled out the paperwork. We're in the game. We don't have any candidates, but we have a spot at the table, and we had to make that application before June 1. It's just one more opportunity for us, the opportunity to possibly find somebody who wants to teach. The advantage to this particular program is you get to pretty well stay at home to matriculate your way through college, and a lot of the tuition is paid for by a grant. And so, yeah, you have to have a little money out of pocket. Yeah, you got to put forth the effort of work all day as a para and then go to college. But it's far cry different from back in the day when I went to school. Money's out of your pocket, and good luck, figure it out. A lot of it will be right here in Garden City. And after the person graduates from Garden City, they have articulated agreements with Newman for sure, and Fort Hays probably. Yeah, multiple universities where they could choose to go through that. So will we get anybody through that? I don't know. But I know we wouldn't get anybody through it if we didn't at least sign up for it. So now we're signed up. Final thing, we've been talking about the welding expansion program, working in concert with Garden City Community College. If you'll recall, it takes a fiscal commitment by us and with Garden City. Ultimately, the reason I'm in favor of this particular project is it provides more opportunities for kids to learn how to weld, because we already have not too many, I want more. We have more kids applying for the welding program locally than we can service. So it makes sense to grow it. So that's a positive. And the other positive is if we end up going down this path, and I'm not asking for a motion tonight by any means, then this should free up the current welding space to retrofit into some other CTE program. I personally am interested in like sort of a building trades program where kids come out knowing how to just do basic stuff around the house, framing, windows, plumbing, electrical, all that kind of good stuff. Right now, the preliminary, our portion of the getting the program up and going is right at $120,000. It's 70 for lights and electrical, 40 for half of the ventilation costs, and 10 for air compressor, That's not a finalized amount by any means, but it's giving you a little bit of idea about the seed money. Once again, I'm not real worried about that. In fact, I support this because it's capital outlay and the money will come back because through the CT funding. So those are my things, Mr. Jones.
When do we have to make a decision, or when do
Well,
we?
there's no way we can get it done by August. And so it really is at the pace of when Garden City says, we're good, we got it all, these are finalized numbers, and I'll bring it to you as, are we playing or not? I don't see a reason not to outside of there's a price tag. But the greater good is served by moving into this program. And so probably, and like I've made it pretty clear to Jerry and Ryan and both said, if we open in January, okay, yeah, we missed funding for a year, but we're servicing these kids. We'll get them the next year as well. So we'll see. As soon as we've got it, Casey will be bringing it.
All right. Buildings and grounds, Garrett,
Nothing further.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you hit water at 128. How deep are they going to drill the well?
I did not know that one. I know our last one was at 220 and water was at 115.
As I said, because we had our chasm at 204, wasn't it? Yeah.
I'd go deeper.
I would too.
Go deeper.
Go to the hard pan.
Yeah, see if you can do that.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
about 300 feet, but
Yeah, 3.
I think on the quote they gave us to initially do everything, they went 320 on that.
That's good.
Okay.
That gives you almost 200 foot of water.
yeah, 120, you're not gonna, back in 120 can disappear.
All right, thanks, Garrett. Transportation, Sam. Food services, Monica.
Nothing further.
Technology, Mr. Ackerman.
Nothing further?
All right, and we'll move to our principals and Wiley Elementary, Mrs. Albright.
Big truck day was awesome because we were drilling well. No, it was great. We had lots of people come out. They're excited to be invited back next year. So we're kind of making our name around all the parents who do different things. So it's fun and exciting every year. We had authors showcase today at both Holcomb Elementary and Wiley Elementary. Great turnout for the families to come out and the students to showcase all of their work that they've done throughout the course of the year. The teachers always do a great job of compiling all their writings and everything for the kids. The kids are always excited to share that, so that went well. Testing is finished and finalized. Our numbers dropped a little bit from last year, but I'm still pretty pleased considering all the maternity leaves that I had in my building and all the rotating subs and lack of subs and all the different things. So we are sitting at 75% of our students at typical and aggressive growth or at benchmark for reading and 80% for math. So still pretty well, just not quite as high as we were last year. So we'll keep trucking along and hopefully next year we have a little more consistency in the classroom.
Something I want to add, the PAT program, we're going to keep it going. We're deep believers in it. Carrie does a fine job. But just keeping in line with the fiscal woes of late, we received word that our grant amount from the state this year is going to go from $50,000 to $28,000. So the way the rules of this work, then we have to put up half of whatever we receive. Okay. So in years past, this program was operated at $75,000. Moving forward next year, the beginning spot will be $32,000, and we'll figure it out from there. Because it is too important of a program not to have. Our numbers are higher than they've ever been. So, of course, in the good graces, and I'm sure there's a real reason for it, for the State Department, they cut our funding. So, because we have more than ever. Doesn't matter. We will buckle down and serve our people, and it'll be a good program. We do. Mm-hmm. So, thank you, Amy.
All right, Mrs. Tyne.
I just wanted to highlight the section in my board report about our fast bridge data. I like to, the second section in there, let me pull mine up. The second section shows typical or aggressive growth or hitting benchmark, which is what we focus on with KISA. You can see a lot of green in that area, so it is very encouraging as opposed to just looking at it from the benchmark and above point of view. I do like to keep data from year to year, and so with our A reading, which is our overall reading comprehension, I mean everything into one test, when I look at our data from 2 years ago, we had 69% of our students that had typical or aggressive growth or were at benchmark. Last year, we moved to 74.7%, and this year we were at 76.2%. So I think that is very encouraging to see that our numbers continue to grow overall, and gives us another way to see that our students are growing, even if they're staying within the same area of proficiency. They are moving and growing in that, I guess, band or whatever you would call it. Also, just a little bit about our math. I did follow our one grade level that I have kept this data on since we started, which would be our 5th graders this year. And when I look at the number of students that were typical or aggressive growth or at benchmark, we had 54 of those when they were in 3rd grade. It moved to, where did my numbers go? 49 in 4th grade, so that was not. And then in 5th grade, it also was at 49. So you can see that more students are hitting that typical and aggressive or at benchmark. We moved 9 students into that area. So I did not see the same amount of growth. We still are looking pretty good in math, but I am excited that we will get started with iReady, and we will have a consistent math program K-5 starting next year. And I do feel like, just like with our CKLA, that will have a positive impact on our students.
I'd also like to highlight, if you guys have not made it, the last couple of years down the 5th grade hallway to where the wall outside the swimming pool is, go see it. The Making the Mark is Melanie Gifford's vision for that through a at-risk grant that we provide. It's way cool. And so our plan, of course, is every 5th grader comes through, we'll add something on their drawing on the actual brick that's indicative of him or her. And then it's kind of a cool high school, elementary project because the background is provided by the high school art people. So if you've not seen it, go see it. Matt had told me a story once about around some sort of basketball tournament, whatever it was, and people saw that and said, that's pretty cool. Wish our school had things like that. So kudos to Randy for having the courage to say, sure, deface our property, and for Melanie to have the vision of what a lasting legacy for the kids who've come through.
Yeah, very fun.
Good
Kids
stuff.
always enjoy it.
All right, thank you. All right, Dr. Mr. Helton.
Doctor.
One thing from my board report that I wanted to highlight, just got done with site council before this meeting at the middle school. A major change we're looking at for next year is allowing students to carry backpacks. From a standpoint of safety, we want them to be clear, transparent backpacks, but our Chromebook bags they're shot. And the price tag for fixing them is astronomical. So I think the win here is kids have wanted those for a while. I think the compromise, if we can make them clear and transparent for safety, we can have backpacks. Site council had some suggestions. The price of them is comparable to a regular backpack, about $15 online on Target that we saw. But we'll work on, if there's a problem with volume, maybe we could bulk buy them and sell them out through PTO or something. So we're working on some things, and I'm working on language that I'll bring to you for the June board meeting, get that in the handbook. So that's a major change I wanted to make sure that families listening could get a head start on thinking about.
And also, Tyler's always looking for opportunities to provide for the kids' interests and also just, the whole child situation. And he decided, his choice, onto his own, and I said, sure, let's do that. Poured a basketball court out back behind the middle school. And so working in concert with Garrett, they're going to put in at least one post. Went out there, I saw, is it going to be multiples? Because I only saw the one bracket, but there's going to be more, I take it.
We're gonna be digging holes on the outside.
Oh, okay. All right. So one in the concrete, okay. But anyway, that's good. That's cool because nobody said to do that. But Tyler knows the student population well enough that, hey, if we go out and play basketball outside during recess, why not? And I'd rather do that than throwing things at each other.
Or doing that in the parking lot where we've got cars zigzagging everywhere.
That's true
so,
too.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Tyler, wouldn't it be, smart to maybe just buy the bags where the parents can buy them from you? Or
Yeah.
That's the best, that way you're not, some parent, oh, this is clear enough, and
Yep, that's what site council brought up. Yeah, they agree with you,
Yeah.
like looking at what are some options we could bulk purchase and then sell them that way.
yeah,
So,
it'd be so much easier.
Yep.
I know the high school, they just carry theirs in their own backpacks. What's the difference?
With a clear, transparent,
Yeah.
just from a safety standpoint. I'll have discipline data and stuff for you for the June board meeting. We've cut our vape incidents in half this year. Just being mindful to safety and security, being able to see what's in the bags.
You can't get into a K-State game without a clear one.
No.
Thank you.
Graduation.
Thanks, Tyler, doctor. All right,
What about your cooler though?
Mr. Johnson. Yeah,
We're not a doctor.
someday.
Probably
You
not.
become a doctor, we can call you Dr. J.
Yes, we could.
We could just do that, and then I don't have to get the doctor part. But people would have expectations like I could jump.
Just Mr. J now.
Yeah. I'm probably going to echo a little bit of what Mrs. Albright and Mrs. Time was talking about FastBridge testing scores. Our FastBridge testing scores were better in the spring than what we saw overall. The biggest thing that I think is this was a big year. This was just a big year for us, K-12, to start to focus on all together in one union of what is FastBridge? Why do we do FastBridge? What's the purpose of FastBridge? And do the kids even understand it? I told the admin a story probably 3 weeks ago. I was sitting at a baseball tournament, 13U baseball tournament in Hayes, and I got 5 kids. I'm loading up my vehicle to go to McDonald's in between games. And the conversation started about FastBridge A reading test scores. They're talking about what did they get on their test score, and they got 3% better than what they were last time. And did you remember this one question that was right before the reading, and it was bullcrap because it went off before I could punch it, and all that kind of different stuff. And the thing that kept going through my mind the entire time was these kids actually know about FastBridge, where before this year we didn't. And that's a testament to the middle school and the elementaries, because my daughter then got in the conversation when she got back and she says, oh yeah, well mine went up 4%. So now they were talking crap on each other about their FastBridge test scores. So the thing I think we've done a really good job in the district this year is we have put out the information to the students and the staff. We do need to do a better job with parents and talking to parents about it and bringing them in and showing them exactly what it is. And I think that's phase 2. But we got the people on board in the school that understand that we're actually doing this for a purpose. And so now, if we can do that, then we can start to push a little harder and for them to understand the why behind it. And so I think the district has done a really good job that way. And I'm kind of proud to be a part of a district that has a vision of what we're chasing after, and we're trying to go for a win. So
I'd like to echo that as well. I mean, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. That happens from leadership through the building, the team, the teacher leaders as well. To get it down to where the kids are choosing to talk about that, that's really, that's something. But also I want to mention Jerry included the information from the musical arts as far as the competitions and whatnot. But what I want to mention is, I don't know how many attended the final band and choir concert. It was well done. But the kudos, and this is to Jerry, he won't accept them, but to Jerry. Mr. Used did something that I've never seen done in a concert. And I was in band all the way through 5th grade through JUCO. And I've never seen somebody go up there and do a sight reading event, in live, in real time. It's cool, because like he made the mention of, by the time we bring something to a concert, this is polished. Well, it has to start somewhere. And so he handed out the paperwork, and he didn't, the new pieces of music to the entire band, and he didn't tell them what to look for. They already knew what to look for. And then they started playing it. Now, about a minute and a half into it, it stopped. But, because it was, at some point going to break down. But that took courage to do that, and faith in his administrator to say, you're doing what? So good on you, Jerry. Good on John. Good on the culture.
All right, thanks, Mr. J. So we will now move to unfinished business and property and casualty insurance.
Okay, we got past spring break, and everything's going along swimmingly. I'm thinking, I need something to do. I really wish some challenge would come along. And within a 2-day period, 3 major, huge challenges came along. One is brought to us from, not from Trent by any means. Trent represents us in this battle. Received on a given Tuesday, a letter from EMC, that's who carries our property and casualty insurance, saying you are canceled for next year. We are not going to cover you anymore. Mike walks in with a stunned look on his eye. What do you think this is? I said, I don't know. I've never seen one of these, but this is what it says. So I immediately called Trent. Trent said, what? I don't know anything about that. Huh? He reached out to some girl by the name of Carrie at EMC who said, no, that's just a precondition, a conditional. And so I told Trent, I'm not very smart, but I know how to read. So I scanned it in and sent it to him and said, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Well, the next day, we got the letter of saying conditional approval with stipulation. And that's why Trent is here, to talk us through what we're going to do. By law, we have to have property and casualty. And you will find out as Trent tells the story and we supplement, in my mind's eye, they're putting some mandates in place that are pretty egregious. And so we need to shop, but there's not many stores in which to shop. By the way, I might check it up a third time. It's not legal to use capital outlay to pay for this premium. It has to be general fund LOB. It's the same pool of money that pays for electricity and paper and salaries and you name it. So and we don't have numbers yet, but go ahead, Trent, tell your story, please.
How much time do I have? Pretty much the insurance marketplace is what we call a dumpster fire. There's a lot of volatility going on in the insurance marketplace, as you may or may not know. So EMC is who USD 363 is with currently, and they've done a great job throughout the years of staying with schools and staying on schools. They have not been profitable 19 of the last 21 years, is my understanding. But they've tried to make it work. Now, the biggest problem in the insurance marketplace world is what we call reinsurance. And I think I talked about this maybe last school board meeting in June on the renewal date. But there was 18 $1 billion claims in 2022. There was 23 in 2023. And the reason I'm telling you that is that's where you're seeing all these huge increases, whether it's on your personal lines, whether it's on commercial, farm, etc. It's real deal. It's real stuff. I could tell you a couple horror stories. One, for example, I have a client that's renewing on May 19th, and we don't have a place for them to go. And they haven't had a claim in 5 years on the property or general liability side. Just no one wants them. No one fits in their appetite. So it's real deal. The reason I wanted to start with that and tell the story of that is what is happening with EMC specifically. So they've had a $14 million claim here in western Kansas last year. They had a $4 million claim here in western Kansas last year. So EMC is making big adjustments. We knew it was coming down the pipe probably in November, December. We didn't know how serious or how bad it was going to be. We found out in January, February, that was pretty bad. We reached out to Dr. Myers during that time and said, hey, we need building updates. There's a lot of information that we're going to take. And I couldn't tell Dr. Myers at the time, but we were working through our Salina office with a pool. So long story short, before we merged, the Salina office was with what we call, Salina office had the capability and started the current pool in 2015. But we had to we had to get approval here in Western Kansas because it's by districts or by regions. You know, Iron Insurance can't write districts here in Western Kansas. We had to get that approved in February before we could start working on these renewals. So we got approval in February, and then right after that, Dr. Myers got the note from EMC saying, hey, there's a chance that you could not be renewed on the property side. So,
It didn't say that, it said non-renewed.
yeah, non-renewed. And then they came back.
I
and
didn't
said-
misread that.
They came back and said conditional the next day. So what are the changes with EMC? So this is what they're doing, saying all that. The EMC is doing a percent deductible, 1%. Anything 15 years or newer on the property side with the buildings, on the roofs, they're offering replacement cost. Replacement cost, a perfect example of that is if something is worth $100,000 10 years ago, now is worth $150,000, they're gonna replace it at $150,000. So any building that the roof is older than 15 years, so 16 to 34 years, they're going to offer ACV, what we call actual cash value. So the perfect example of that, perfect way to explain it is if you have a $100,000 car and you go and drive it 150,000 miles, 10 years later down the road it's not worth 100,000, it's going to be closer to maybe 50 or 40,000. So that's what they're going to pay out if there's a big claim. And then after 35 years, if your roof has not been replaced in the last 35 years, they're not going to offer building coverage at all. So you're talking Holcomb Elementary School is coming up on that 35 years in the next 2 or 3 years, just based off the dates, I believe. I could be wrong, but that's the oldest roof in the district. We would say, hey, after that 35 years, they're not going to offer replacement costs on that whole building. So you can see how big of a problem this could present when you're talking $15 million or $20, $25 million, whatever Holcomb Elementary School is worth in today's dollars. You're talking about a big chunk of change where if a tornado or a major claim came through, a major catastrophic event, you're talking about, hey, what are we going to do with that building? So that takes us to the pool situation. So the pool is saying, hey, we're gonna look at these districts in the current pool. So that takes me back to the current. I hope I'm not losing you, and I know there's a lot of information, so I apologize. But the current pool was started in 2015. There was 10 school districts during that time in that school year. Now there's 97. They had 16,000 students that they covered in 2015. Now they have 178,000. So their policy year goes from 7/1 to 6/30. That is a non-negotiable. They try to get you on that calendar year because they go to London and they negotiate prices based off of the risk. So they have some non-negotiables. They have crisis response, which we have. They have mechanical breakdown that they require, pollution liability, and cyber. The non-negotiables also is they have to, if you have a high school, you're going to insure it for $300 per square foot. Currently, our high school is probably $275, and the biggest thing there is on a blanket, but so you can pull money from side to side, if you will, if it's just a high school was hit. But we want to make sure it's close to $300 as we can get. There's 2 school districts that are building or have currently built, and that number that they're charging is close to $380 a square foot, $380 to $420 in replacement costs today. So the closer we can get to that $380 would be great, but that also means more premium, obviously. And their non-negotiable is $250 for elementary school. So I guess all that information to say we're taking it to market this year. We got approval. We're going to look at what is called the current program, and they're rebranding to the KICS program, or KICS. And you're going to have 2 quotes this year, one with EMC, one with the school program, if they do allow. My recommendation as an advisor / agent is tough. You know, you don't, it's not an apples to apples comparison. I would say that the coverage could be better in the KICS program when it comes to, you're going to have a flat deductible. There's not going to be a guesswork. It's not going to be a percentage. They're going to charge you based off that $300 and $250. The other problem with that is, and I've told Dr. Myers this, is they have 97 schools currently in the program. There's 50 with all these changes that EMC is making. There's 50 that are trying to get in. So I think it's a stability factor of saying, hey, they've been profitable the last 4 or 5 years. Well, I think they've been profitable all 10 years. I think there was 2 years that they got hit hard with storms, one being the Andover tornado that they represent in the pool, and they still maintain and still are profitable during that time. So they do require a 3-year commitment. So, you know, if all of us were throwing $10,000 into a pool for it to represent a property, they don't want Dr. Myers saying, hey, I'm out at the last minute, and then we have to say, hey, who's going to pick up that $10,000 when you're talking, you know, millions of dollars in coverage on schools. For example, Holcomb USD 363, you're talking $100 million of property that you're going to get covered. So they don't want people to jump and go year to year. It's a 3-year commitment. So are there any questions?
Is it the same 3-year commitment for everyone, or is
Yes.
it rolling?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. No, it's rolling.
So
It's
we come in
rolling.
this year, we've got the next 3 years.
Yes.
You could, guy came in last year, but it does lend the stability. You know,
Yep.
cost. Okay, gotcha.
I will also mention that Iron Insurance represents 30 school districts throughout western and central Kansas, and we're currently trying to get all of them into the pool program. I will say that one that I represent, I got word that they were not accepted Friday. And they are a 5/22 renewal.
I mean, so no names, but
Yeah.
why?
Their roofs are 40 years old. All the property is one location, and they don't have a sprinkler system, which, of course, no western Kansas school district has a sprinkler system.
Interior sprinkler system, you mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. We need to find out, obviously, how old that roof is. Randy, you should know this. Yeah. And then we need to get estimates on replacing the doggone thing.
So I will say, and I looked it up before I came to the meeting, and I do know this for a fact. So, or not for a fact, but I do know that this is close or approximate. That a square on a roof is 10 by 10 when you're talking commercial. So you're talking a big commercial building is 10 foot by 10 foot, so 100 square feet. That is considered one square. So if the high school, for example, is 100, or let's just say 60,000 square feet, which I know is way over that, but 60,000 square feet, a cost per square is around $400 to take off, to install. So you're looking at $2.4 million off a 60,000 square foot building. So you're talking a lot of money, a lot of investment into your school or into the buildings itself over the next how many ever years that you want to stay under that if you want to stay with EMC.
And I thought I heard you say, so what if a portion of the building is older than 35 years, but another portion is only 30 years? Are they covering, is it all or nothing? Or
No,
are they going to
they-
cover sections of it?
They'll cover it, but they want to see a maintenance plan of saying, hey, we're going to cover this, you know, we have plans to do this in the next 3 years or in the next 5 years. When that 30-year gets to the 35-year mark, we're going to replace the whole thing or we're going to replace a portion. We want to stay insurable.
So, and I realize you were talking about the high school and those are estimated numbers, but let's say it's $2 million over here. With $2 million over a 5-year time period, we could do a rolling type thing perhaps?
Yeah, I think if you can tell that story, and that's my job as.
But in the meantime, another building is also creeping up on the 35-year. And then another one is creeping up on.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is the commercial side, inflation, everything, all the factors into it. The commercial roofing is so expensive now, and it's only going to continue to get more expensive. So it's saying, hey, what's our maintenance plan going forward on that?
And when do you anticipate getting solid quotes from EMC and the pool?
So the pool was very transparent with us and saying, hey, we're not going to have quotes probably by until the second week of June. Because there's 97 schools in the district and 50 are coming in. You're looking at a 50% increase. So will all those schools get in? I can't say one way or another, but I'm going to say the second week of June. It's going to be pretty tight scheduling.
What about EMC?
EMC said they were going to try to get theirs out at the end of May.
And what is the industry seeing across the board as far as, I'm hearing the soups talk, and they're talking 25 to 35% increase.
Yeah, on the property, I would say 25%, 30%. On the overall, you're looking at 15 or 20.
And what he's kind of alluding to, I don't know if you guys recall, but we bundled everything together last year to save money on work comp. Now we're talking about splitting it back out.
I would say, I would recommend, we're going to take the work comp to market. There's a couple different carriers we're going to look at with the work comp. I will say, how can we mitigate that? And I think what Dr. Myers has put together with the safety committee, with our loss control services that we have at Iron, I think has been very successful. It's not one of those things that you're going to see the fruit this year or next year. You're going to see it 3 or 4 years down the line. I think that's one of the easiest ways to save money as a school district.
But the carriers do see our effort.
Yes, and that's my story.
The effort, in theory, the product will come.
Yeah, and that's my job as, what I like to say, you guys are the book, you guys are the main character in a book, and I'm the narrator. I have to tell that story of saying, hey, this is what they're doing on the back end. Their mod is at 1.37. 2 of those workers are no longer with the school district. We are actively working on a plan to help keep us safe. This is what they're doing. They're doing a trip slip fall campaign. They're working in the kitchen. They're working on labeling. They're doing a number of these factors on the back end to help promote safety.
And we're utilizing the telephonic nursing services. If someone gets hurt on the job, we've just basically, set it and set it and set it. You have to see Mike first. Now, if you got your arm hanging off your shoulder, go to, go somewhere, But you just don't go to the emergency room because you fell. You come see Mike, we call the nurse. The nurse says, it takes ibuprofen, put some ice on it, you're good to go. Or, you better go to the work comp place. And so it's not just, so we're not playing the expert, the individual people aren't playing the expert, but we're following the policy. And this is new, and it's worked, but.
It takes a liability off of USD 363 and putting it on the carrier. And saying, hey, should they go to the emergency room or not? Or say, hey, we need to wait a couple days, take some ibuprofen, let's come back and see how we're feeling then.
And just timing-wise, board, as far as, you need to know this, like Trent already said, renewal date is July 1. The law said that they had to break up with us by 60 days, within 60 days, right? And I got the notification of we're breaking up with you on the 61st day. Thought that wasn't right, but then they brought it the second set, okay? We can break up with them the night before the renewal date, correct? Yeah, so even though we're not getting some of these things some second week of June, there's still enough time. If the right decision fiscally is to go with the pool, we can make it happen without, we'd have to have a special board meeting, to make it, because it'll probably be past June 10, which is what our meeting's set up for. But timing-wise, this can still work if we need to make the jump. But any which way you look at it, you need to get used to the idea that it's going to cost more.
Is there a million questions?
Is there such a pool, a similar pool like this for healthcare insurance?
I'm not for sure on that. We don't really do a lot on the healthcare side. I know that, when you get to a certain size, self-insuring is pretty popular on that. I don't know if Holcomb's approaching that or not. I don't really have a lot of experience in that. I do know that we have some clients that are self-insured. They are a little bit bigger than USD 363, but it's one of those things that you can definitely look at, play with the numbers. I know that's a lot of information, so if you guys have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. Dr. Myers and I will try to get you the answer back.
So if I heard you right there too, then you said that the rate increases or projected rate increases on work comp were about 15%?
So the package as itself is probably 15%. Work comp is individual. So the lowest your work comp can go is 0.65.
Right.
Is close to that. So your work comp is based off your prior 3 years' experience. So the more, your mod. So if you have a lot of claims, a lot of exposures, which Holcomb has had 3 or 4 shot claims is what we call them. And this is getting down into the weeds, and I hope I'm not wasting your time on this, but Kansas is what you call a net reporting state. So if you have a lot of $1,000 claims and you have a $1,000 deductible, you don't have to report them if they're under $1,000 because you're self-insuring it. Right. But anything over that $1,000 reports onto your mod. So even if we would have had a $10,000 deductible on our work comp, it still would have been reported because some of those claims were $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. So it's kind of just saying, hey, it's going to be a tough next 3 years because those claims are on right now currently. If we can weather the storm, continue to practice that safety, continue to make that initiative, 2 or 3 years down the road, we come back and we have a 0.8 mod or 0.75, you're saving around probably $10,000, $15,000. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you continue that over the long term, 10 or 15,000 doesn't sound like a lot when you're comparing $2.4 million worth of roof, but.
Still not an expense.
Yeah.
Our mod factor right now is 0.65.
No, that's the lowest it can be. I think your mod right now, we can do a mod projection. I think it was a 1.37. For those that don't know, anything above a 1, it kind of works reverse. Anything above a 1 is below average. Anything below a 1 is above average. So Holcomb has done a great job, being around a 0.75 for 2 or 3 years.
That's my frustration. We were at sub 1 for years, and then 3 claims.
And it just jumps.
And it's supposed to be on a multiple year.
Yeah, 3 years, and then 1 year falls off,
Right,
1 year
right.
gets added. So the problem
Jump
is,
from a 0.75 to a 1.3 whatever.
and that's just how severe those claims were.
Since we're at a 1.37, we're paying 37% more.
Yes.
Basically.
Yep. Than your standard average. Yes.
If we were at a 0.75, we'd be paying 25% less than the normal.
Now they'll give you credits, and that's my job as your agent, is to go to them and say, hey, listen, these were, this was abnormal. You have two workers that aren't currently with the district. We have a safety committee. We're actively working on that. Can we get some rate back? Or they can't do the rate back, but they can schedule you some credit and say, hey, you guys are doing the right things. We can send them documents. This is what Holcomb USD 363 is doing. Can you give us a break on the back end? So
if we don't get accepted into the pool, EMC's our only other option?
yeah, there used to be probably 6 or 7 carriers, is my understanding. This was before my time, that wrote school districts. That has shrunk just because it's just so unprofitable. You're talking about a lot of liability in the property, or a lot of exposure in the property, I should say, and not a lot to combat that. It's, pretty much your property is making up probably, I would say, 60 or 70% of your insurance, your P&C insurance. So when that property is hit, there's nothing really we can do. So there's really 2 options right now. Anything else out of those 2 options are going to be very, very pricey. And that's what we call excess and surplus. That's where we go to not a standard carrier or standard market. And you're looking at whatever you're paying now, probably 30 or 40% increase just off that. So.
It's always great seeing you.
I know. Sean moved to Wichita about the right time, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Because I've only brought bad news.
So in terms of real dollars, so like this last year, our premiums were.
Could I ask the board members to speak into the mics just a little bit more?
So in real dollars and cents, so last year we paid how much in insurance premiums, and with a 30% increase, what are we looking at in real dollars?
I think with work comp and everything, you were around 256. My goal is to keep it under 3. That would be, I would say, a successful year. I don't know what the pool is going to come back at. I can't say it's going to be as aggressive as last year or comparable to last year. can't say on the pool side because I don't have a lot of exposure there. This is a new product for us, if you will. You know, I've heard about the pool. Conradi Insurance out of Newton handles the West region, so they were kind of our competitors. But like I mentioned, we got approval for all the districts that we currently have to take them to the pool. So
That would be only 3 for PNC standalone. That's not figuring in work comp side.
I think that was with work comp, I thought.
That's with,
I would have to go back and check.
Yeah, when we talked last time about this, the PNC was like 150 some odd.
The property was 155, and then the autos, the GL, the linebacker, everything else was, I can't remember, but I think the work comp itself was 48,000.
And I'm with Trent. I'm licking my finger, putting it in the air. I'm hoping to come in at 300 total, is what the hope. One hand and the other, right? So as we know more, so shall you.
Yep, so my goal is to get with Scott, Dr. Myers, sometime in early June, let him know, hey, this is what EMC is. We're going to wait on the pool. Once the pool comes in, present it to Dr. Myers if they accept USD 363, and then get out in front of you if there's a special meeting. So you guys can answer questions, or ask questions, and hopefully I have the answers.
Thank you, sir.
thanks.
Thank you guys again for your business and partnership with Iron.
Yep,
The next thing on the agenda, we'll do it.
okay. So now we're health insurance.
Health insurance. Brian Hillier, our broker, will be joining us in 4 minutes. We're going to turn on the thing, and he'll actually be ready to talk at 8 o'clock. So in the meantime, I'm just going to fill in odds and ends. We'll probably end up tabling the standards-based grading presentation until we come back to it. But by way of introduction, I'll start talking about the Health Insurance Committee stuff, and then Brian will fill in with more details. His purpose tonight is to explain how we have gotten to where we are. And where we are at this moment is our one bid that we received back was from Blue Cross Blue Shield for an increase of 62%. They base that on usage. Boils down to, that's what they base it on. And according to Brian, as Mike and I continue to meet with him, we pay in about $1 million toward premiums per year. And what they want is just to come in at $850,000. And their profit is made in the difference there. That's what they want. We came in at $1.7 million worth of claims. And so if you do the math on that, that's really more than a 62% increase. It's really an 80% increase. So thank you, Blue Cross, for only having it be a 62% increase. In dollars, what that means is an individual, what the board has provided for people in the insurance plan last year was $600 per month. Basically enough to cover a single individual in Plan C. That's basically what you guys have done for years, okay? If these numbers stick, that $600 per month goes to $974. $600 to $974. When we're talking about the district contribution to this, it goes from around $800 and some odd thousand a year to $1.3 million a year. That's where it goes. It's an additional $514,000. So that doesn't sound good. So we're thinking we obviously need to do some things about this. What are the options? And Brian is the expert. He'll give you the better details than I can, but I'll, in broad strokes, tell you there are basically 3 potentials for us. One is Blue Cross. That's in the bank. We can do it. We can just use it. If that's our best option, that's what you can go to. How it gets paid is a negotiable item, but it does come through the general fund and LOB. Another option is there's a thing called, utilizing AI, artificial intelligence. There's one group out there that does this, and it's called Angle Insurance, and their underwriter is, starts with an S, Cigna. So it's quality insurance. If you lay it down next to what our current thing is, same 80-20, farms codependent, all these things, they're all the same. It's the same. Well, their pre-bid, I have to say the word pre-bid, because it goes up to $734. So an increase of $134. That's 22%. You say, well, Scott, that's a no-brainer. 62%, 22%, I know which I'm going. Problem is, that's before you do pre-enrollment. So then what would occur if we choose to go this way is we'd say, okay, let's open pre-enrollment. Let's get it open, get people enrolled. Then they rerun the numbers because now they're looking at who's actually wanting the insurance. It could go down It could remain the same. It could go up to the point where it goes above Blue Cross. Because it's all about how many claims have come through recently. Hey, Ryan, fill in, please. Ryan was at the committee meeting as we go through this, if I screw up a little piece of this here and there. A reason to go ahead and move forward with the open borders, pre-approval time is early, is because some things might not have gotten onto the book by now. The negative about that is, then it would start in July. If that were the case, then yes, we would be paying Angle and Blue Cross in July and August. Okay? That is at an increase for those 2 months. It's $180,000, what that would cost to do that. You say, well, why in the heck would you do that? Because then the lower premium comes into play for the rest of the year. Right. And if we do that, then in the end, we save about $120,000 if you let the game come back to us. But we just don't know how it's going to play. Randy, if you want to turn it on, we can do that now. So that's where we are. The third option is this thing called ICRA. I can't tell you what those initials stand for, but what it means is the board provides X amount of dollars to the people in the pool, and then we have a provider that says, well, here's about 17 different places you can get your insurance. It's purely age-rated. So someone who happens to be 60 years old, like myself, is going to pay more than Amy Albright, who's maybe 26, right? Yeah. It's just the reality of it is it's age-rated. So I don't know how we worked that out in negotiated agreement. I don't know. But I get to go shop at Farm Bureau.
Shop that on the marketplace, and
Right.
on the open marketplace.
But then our part, though, is what's the board cost? So,
Correct.
How do we mitigate that?
Yeah.
In talking with Brian late afternoon today, I don't know that it's worth the complexities as far as the savings on that. We'll hear about it. You get to talk about it.
So each individual would go get their own plan? Okay.
Yeah, and then provide them, here are all the people are going to provide this. Go shop here, or you can shop here. Or, you don't go to that method unless you have to go to that method. And that's just all there is to it. And like I said, he will talk it through this with us, far better than I can. And then there's no decision made tonight by any means. The question I need to ask of him is, does the board need to take actual action to say, let's do the open enrollment with Angle? If Mike and I get our way, we can go ahead and do that, do the open enrollment, see how it comes in. And if it comes in better for us, and it's good insurance, you make the jump. Same time, if people have got to be comfortable with that, because people love Blue Cross. I don't know if people know Cigna, but we can show you on a piece of paper what the various plans offer. Anything else, Ryan?
No, I think the one point that I would make, just as questions that we were asking of Brian, specific to the Angle insurance, was just, with moving to Cigna, what are the concerns that you would run into with out-of-network? And he had stated that he had several individuals, companies that he works with that currently have Cigna as their provider and have not ran into issues with network providers. So,
and I will add to that, on the ICRA, it's flat out, don't go out of network.
correct.
So if people in here, doctor in Denver, if we're within ICRA, I recommend you not do that because it'll be out of network. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know how the networks work in Kansas. I mean, maybe individual doctors here and there are out of network. I don't know. Majority of them are in Blue Cross. There's Brian. Okay, Brian, I've told them everything I know. Now you get to bring it home.
Well, perfect. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for being here, Brian.
Yeah, apologize that I'm not there in person. I told Scott and Mike I'm traveling today, so sorry about the hideous background as well. So let me just go ahead and dive into it. Let me make sure that if I share my screen, it's going to work. I'd just like to share a couple things.
All right, have at it, Brian.
Okay, are you guys able to see my desktop?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So we met with the insurance committee and provided some books. I believe we left additional copies, so hopefully everybody has a book in front of them. That said, I'm going to just share a couple key pieces of information, and it will really paint the picture. And again, I know some of this will be repeat for those members that attended the meeting, as well as I know that Scott and Mike have shared some information as well. That said, I'm going to start with this document here, so it's page 4 of 52. What I really want to draw attention, I'll zoom in here, what I really want to draw attention to is the claims paid by Blue Cross based off of the rolling 12 months. So this looks at April 1st through the end of March. And it's broken by the paid month. And
Can you zoom in just a little bit more, Brian? Can you zoom in just a
zoom in
little?
once more?
Yep, there you go.
How's that?
Better, yep.
Perfect. Really the important number is this one down here that is 1.7 million. So this is after the PPO discounts. This is after we all know that providers will bill a certain amount and then there's a discount that applies. The amount that was paid on the rolling 12 is 1.7 million. So this is going to be important when we look at what the premium is that you're paying today. But just pointing out that it's 1.7 million on the rolling 12. You will also notice that from the claims being incurred, if we look at April and kind of work our way down, some of these months are lower than what we're seeing today. So 87,000, 125, 135, 111, versus when we look at the more recent months, we're 233, 242. So if we really were to say, well, let's look at some of the more recent months than the prior months, we see that those months are higher than the prior months earlier in the year. But regardless, the amount paid in the rolling 12 is 1.7 million. If we do look at last year, so this is a similar report for last year, I'm going to go to the same report here. You moved to Blue Cross September 1st. So when we say, why don't we show the prior 12, I'd have to pull reports from United and then reports from Blue Cross. So just showing you some earlier months. We all know that there's lagging claims, so I'm going to pull up my calculator here. We all know that there's lagging claims, so when we look at September and it says 21,000, that's probably a partial month because of the lag. When someone goes to the doctor, typically the lag is around 30 days. So if we take September, October, November, December, January, February, March, the amount that was paid was 586,000. So we take 586, 185, and again, even though this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, I'm going to count it as 6 months because we know that there's lagging claims. So if we times this divided by 6 and times it by 12, we get our rolling month to be 1.1 million. So using the beginning of when we moved to Blue Cross, claims coming in at 1.1 million versus now fast forwarding to some additional months, we're now running 1.7 million. That's the challenge that we're up against. So I just wanted to more paint the picture. All right, so diving into it, what does this all mean? This shows the enrollment, and again, let me make it a little bit bigger. We don't need all the little nitty-gritty, the small details underneath. But here we have 4 plans. So we have plan A, B, C, D. These are the current plans with Blue Cross. Here where it says Blue Cross Blue Shield current A, B, C, D. This is what members are doing today. So from an enrollment standpoint, we have 44 employee-onlys on plan A. We have 3 employee spouses, 5 employee children, and 1 family. If we look at plan B, we have 11,210. And if we look at plan C, we have 37,061. And we have a couple members on plan D as in dog. We have 4 members that are employee only. So this is where the employees are at today. If we pick up and look at the total counts Today, there's 115 enrolled on the medical plan. If we take the enrollment and times it by the rates that you have today, I go over one more row here. You can see that the enrollment today is 1,016,000. That is taking the calculation of everyone that's on Plan A times by Plan A, B times by Plan B, C times by Plan C, and same thing with Plan D, gives us a total premium of 1,016,000. I did calculate how many are on the plan, so that if we highlight these, we can see that we have 115 on the plan. One thing that I know, sometimes we talk about district, the district reimbursement versus the total premium. The $1 million is the total premium today. Right now, what you're doing is you are paying 100% of option C. So if we take option C, times that by the 115, times it by 12, the district's portion is 827,000. So do want to point out, one is total premium, and one is the amount that the district pays, which is the $600. If you remember from the claims experience that I provided, your claims on a rolling 12 have been $1.7 million. Your total premium has been $1 million. So when we look at what we paid in versus what Blue Cross paid out, they paid out about 70% more than what we've paid in. So then it kind of roll through here. This is the renewal from Blue Cross. You can see where the pricing's at. So again, option A, B, C, D, these are the same plans that you're offering today. But from a total premium standpoint, the premium's coming in at 1.6 million. Again, your claims were 1.7. They came in at 1.6. I do want to point out that if we are looking at what the district pays or reimburse, or what they contribute towards the insurance, if we take option C times by the 115 people, that's 1.3 million. So again, if we're talking district cost, continuing the same contribution that you're doing today, this is looking at total premium that includes those employees that have bought up to add their spouses, their children, as well as bought up to plan A and B as well. So when we're looking at it and saying, what does this mean? If we look at it from the district standpoint, today they're paying $827,000. It would go to 1.3 million. If we wanted to talk about a dollar amount, so right around 500,000. One of the things that we did was we did go out to the market. We refer to them as the BUCA carriers, which is Blue Cross, United, Cigna, and Aetna. All of them use the claims experience. When we sent it to them and we sent them the $1.7 million of claims, obviously we sent them the prior years as well to say, look, use prior years, use an average, weight them 50-50 or weight them. Here's the claims experience before Blue Cross. All the carriers came back declining the group, being Blue Cross, United, Cigna, and Aetna, that looked at the claims experience. The reason being is that while it is an increase, Blue Cross coming in at the 1.6 million of total premium, with your claims being 1.7 million, if we have the exact same claims as we do this year, if we have them next year, even at the 1.6 million, it would be expected that the insurance company would be upside down or run at a loss. So United, Cigna, Aetna, they all came back and said, Brian, we would be closer to 2 million. And you'd say, how do they get 2 million if our claims are 1.7? So again, bringing my calculator out, the way that insurance companies work, and this is maybe why they get bad reputation of saying, look, they're trying to run on margins. But if we take the 1.7 million of claims, they're trying to run at a 15% margin. So they have administration, they have risk involved, they have to sign the contracts with the hospitals, they have captive agents, they have underwriting. So again, whether we agree with the 15% or not, that's industry norm. If we take the 1.7 million times by 1.15, it means that your premium should be closer to 1.95. I'm going to round it to 2 million. So Blue Cross came in at 1.6. When we sent this out, originally everybody came back and said, Brian, would be significantly higher. I then went back to them and said, hey, Blue Cross came in at 1.6. Can you revise? Can you give us a quote? United, Cigna, and Aetna all came back and said no, would be closer to 1.9 to 2 million based off of the claims experience. So there's really three ways to look at this. When we go to underwriting, there's three ways to look at this. One way is to look at the claims experience. That's the document we just looked at. What happened in the past? There are a couple companies that will, option number two is there are a couple companies that will actually use AI, artificial intelligence. You'd say, Brian, what's AI? What does this mean? How does it work? The best way that I can explain it is we've all gotten a credit score before. Maybe you bought a house, maybe you bought a car, maybe you just went to freecreditkarma.com and wanted to see your credit score. And they're able to pull certain data based off of how many bank accounts you have, how many credit cards you have you missed a payment? It will show you the average life of how long you've had certain credit cards, so the longer you have them, the better. When you say, how do we know, how do they get this data? Well, I can't tell you, but what I can tell you is that you can get your credit card, you can get your credit score pulled. The exact same thing happens with health insurance companies. They buy data from these manufacturers, whether that be maybe prescription, maybe it's Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer, or maybe it's big hospital system. What they can do is they can actually take the listing of who's on the plan today. They can hit that database and it will come back and give you a score. So that's option number two is instead of looking at the history, what about if we look at the AI? What does that look like based off of the risk of the group? Now, AI helps you if you have a really big claim and that person is no longer on the plan, then AI can help you because we're running the census based off of who's on the plan today. So if your large claim retired, if your large claim quit, maybe they went on their spouse's plan, whatever it may be, then that AI quote can come in better than than maybe what the claims experience is justifying. So there is one company, it's by the name of Angle. Angle put together this program. I do want to just point out that they use Cigna's network. So again, we talked about the BUCA carriers, BUCA. They do use one of the big four companies. So Blue Cross, United, Cigna, Aetna. That said, from a pricing standpoint, if we look at it for plan A, B, C, D, and again, these are very similar to what you're doing today. We could go through line by line and look at the deductibles, the co-insurance, the out-of-pockets, the co-pays. From a plan design standpoint, it's very, very similar to what you're doing today. Same deductible, same out-of-pocket, same co-insurance, same co-pays. On the prescriptions as well, same prescription co-pays for a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. So from a plan design standpoint, it's very similar. It's a product that's put together by Angle. From a list of doctors, they use Cigna. So it's very reputable from the standpoint of good plan design, similar to what you're doing. From a list of doctors, it's one of the big four. But you can see when they used AI, where the pricing came in at for the different options. This brings in your pricing at 1.2 million. Now, if we look at, well, what does this mean to the district? So take that plan 3 times it by the 115 people, times it by 12, it's $1 million versus if we stay with Blue Cross, it's 1.3. There's a couple things to note with this. And again, we reviewed this with the insurance committee. We spent 2 hours together where we went through the nuances and the ins and outs. The way that this program works is because they use AI and not the claims experience, they took the list of employees that are on the plan today, they hit the database, it produces a credit score, produces a score, and then they come out and say, we need our total premium to be 1.2 million. We have to hold open enrollment. During open enrollment, some employees will come off, some employees will come on. We have to hold an open enrollment once a year. Once we hold open enrollment, they rerun the AI. So while this is an accurate quote based off of who's on it today, we know that there will be some changes, or we assume that there will be some changes. So I would just caution and say we have to go into it saying this is where we expect the pricing to be, but until we complete open enrollment, get the final census, they run one more AI, where then they would say, okay, we're ready to sign on the dotted line. One thing to note is that we do know that a lot of your large claims, again, in discussion with Blue Cross, we know a lot of the large claims are still on the program. So it is possible that some of the data just hasn't come through the system to show up on AI. So what I mean by that is let's say that you have a new cancer patient. They started cancer treatment. Maybe they started at the end of April. Just like if you don't pay your credit card, these companies that run the credit score, they're not going to know right away. Things aren't instantaneously. Maybe they get updated once a quarter. Again, it has to be that you start the medication, that runs through the system gets updated once a quarter. If we run the AI in 3 months, it now might show that you have someone that's taking cancer treatment. So one of the things that we talked about with the insurance committee is if we're trying to avoid our cost going to 1.3 million and we can do it for 1 million, does it make sense to get this completed earlier than later? What I mean by that is they already ran the AI recently. If we can quickly get through open enrollment and we can run the AI before new things show up, then that may help us lock in this lower cost that would save the district $300,000. It could be timing. Again, we know from Blue Cross, they do provide a large claim report, and in looking at the large claim report, and again, we reviewed this with the insurance committee, we looked at the top 10, and based off of the report Blue Cross gives us, it says active, 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 active. It wasn't until we hit the 8th or 9th large claim that said one of the members had been terminated or no longer on the plan. So I'm a little bit nervous that the AI could be timing, and that if we wait until our regular open enrollment, that we could lose this quote. So again, not pressuring anyone to do anything, but if we want to take advantage and say, let's lock in $1 million quote for the district instead of 1.3, it may be something that we quickly hold open enrollment. We are month to month with Blue Cross, so we could send in a termination notice once we lock this in. We hold open enrollment. They rerun the AI with the new census. Assuming it doesn't change, we lock it in, and maybe we lock this in before September. Maybe we do July, just as an example. Again, when you say, why would we do that? Really 2 things. One, some new medications, some new things. If we go back to that PDF, if you remember the last 2 months were your heaviest months, maybe things just haven't made it through the system to show up in the AI. And so some of it's timing. And then the other thing is that you have new teachers Again, some teachers decide not to come back, and you replace those with new teachers for the new school year. And so that census could change. If somebody comes on and it changes, again, we no longer have the quote. So 2 things going on. The other comment that I would make is that if we did target a July 1, and let's just assume the worst case scenario. We roll this out, we hold open enrollment, a few people come off and on, they rerun the AI, maybe some new things hit the AI, and they come back and say, we have to rate this up. Let's just assume they rate it up to 2 million. That still gives us time to say, well, at least we have the Blue Cross quote, total cost coming in at 1.6. It gives us 2 months to hold open enrollment with Blue Cross, and we can kind of go back to saying, look, thank goodness Blue Cross only came in at 1.6. So if we try to do it early, it allows us to have a backfall of what if this doesn't work because new AI hits and the rate changes. We can get through it and know that we're not up against the wall of a last minute change and then we're backpedaling. If we hold open enrollment in August, all the new teachers start, we don't give them the new census until August 20th, they run the AI, and we're going live September 1st, and they come back and say, this needs to be 2 million because of AI, new things hit the system, then we have 10 days to figure this out with Blue Cross, and everybody's in panic mode. So there's really a couple different reasons why we may look at it earlier. One is to try to prevent something new from hitting the AI. One is preventing people coming off and on of a new school year that could trigger something. And then 3 is we don't want to be have our back against the wall where we're saying, look, we got 5 days to figure this out and we had a last minute change.
Hey, Brian, do you want us to hold questions to the very, very end or ask them as you finish a section?
Let me just go to one more section and then I'll open it up and answer all the questions.
That's fine, thank you.
So this last one here, one strategy, when I was talking to Mike and Scott, and we've had several conversations and conference calls. One of the things that I told them, I said, guys, at this point, I feel like the house is on fire. I started working with the district and the house is on fire, and it's like, how are we going to save the house? My biggest thing, and again, I use this analogy with them, was saying, look, I'll consider this a win if we can just get everyone out of the house. We don't have to save the house. We just got to get the people out of the house. So what I mean by that is we're looking at everything. We're not just looking at Blue Cross, United, Cigna, Aetna, send them the 3-year claim reports, and we're just saying, well, the bid's the bid, and these are the big companies. We're looking at everything. We're looking at the big companies. Option number 2 is the AI. And then option number 3 is actually what we call an ICRA. And so let me explain what the ICRA is. The ICRA is an HRA that basically allows employers to use the individual marketplace. Now you have to do it through an ICRA in order to get the tax advantages and different things like that, and to be able to use the district contribution. So you can't just say, all right, we didn't give everybody income, or they have to pay taxes on it and let them go buy their own program. So you do it through an ICRA. The ICRA is you give everybody, I'm just going to simplify it, you give everybody $600 and they're going to buy a program. Now, for any of you that know the individual marketplace, you don't get the same rate unless you're the same age. And so what we do is we actually set it up, and it's a little complex, but I'm going to simplify it for you. The way that we set it up is we decide how much is the employee going to pay. And so we say, okay, the employee's going to pay, we'll pay Plan C of the employee, just like we would have. So if you're 30, the district pays $300. If you're 64, the district pays $1,100, because it's all based off of age. But we set it up where we say, okay, the district's going to pay Plan C. If you remember where Plan C was, so Plan C on these is a $1,500 deductible. I ran a couple $1,500 deductibles to say, well, what would this be? it does come in cheaper than Blue Cross. It comes in around 1.5 million. Again, we'd have to calculate out each of these people adding spouses, and it's very complex. But we could do this where we set up an ICHRA, the district pays for the single, and basically what we do is we write 115 different policies. It's not a group plan other than it's an ICHRA, but basically we write 120 different policies and everybody signs up. Now, when we have a quote on here, going back to option 2, when we have a quote on here at 1.2 million, we'd say, why would we waste time on a $1.5 million quote? Well, if you remember, again, I'm talking total premium. Blue Cross is 1.6. So if we go here, Blue Cross is 1.6. We could do this at 1.5. It is slightly cheaper than Blue Cross. Now, there's some downside. So again, I'm throwing everything out on the table, and then we can nix anything and say, look, we just don't want to do that. But there's some downside. The first thing is that there's no out-of-network coverage on most of these plans. So what I mean by that is emergencies are paid in network. So emergencies are paid in network, but other than that, there'd be no out-of-network coverage. The second thing is that these EPO plans through Blue Cross, this is the individual marketplace, but EPO means that it only covers the state of Kansas. If you travel, whether you go to Colorado, whether you go to Nebraska, unless it's an emergency, so you break your leg and you get seen, it's not covered. So these are really Kansas state plans that require you to stay in Kansas. Now, when I say that, it may be something that you say, Brian, we'd rather pay a little bit more to have the flexibility. But again, I'm putting everything on the table. And ICHRA is taking advantage of healthcare reform, the ACA, that says there is no underwriting. These are all based off of age. Think of it like the exchange, but we've set it up to be able to use pre-tax dollars or company-funded dollars. And so it's an option. It's not ideal. It's very complex from administration. Even these people covering their spouses and children, it's all going to be based off of age, so it's going to depend on what age they are. It's very complex. However, it's an option. Okay? You will notice that this one here at 1.5 and 1.4, these are very similar to your Plan C as in CAT. So what you're doing today, you cover 100% of the single rate. I did throw one on here that says, look, if we want to look at a high deductible plan, so a 7,500 plan, it's not what you're offering today, but just showing like, hey, we can get costs down. But really it's these options, 1.4, 1.5. So when you say, what's the ideal option? If we can get angled to work at 1.2, which again, the district contribution is $1 million, 1.2 on total cost is going to be a lot better than 1.5, and it's very complex. But these are the two options that are coming in below Blue Cross. So option 1, we use claims. Everybody declined. They saw 1.7 million. They said this isn't a group we want to come after, especially where Blue Cross is 1.6. We have the AI. I've talked about the challenges there, that they do rerun the AI once we submit the final census. And then we have the ICHRA being individual policies. Again, the district could fund the Plan C rate, coming in about $100K lower than Blue Cross. The downside of this is complex accounting, no out of state except for emergencies, no out of network except for emergencies. So let me pause there, and I'll kind of open it up for questions, and I'll use this spreadsheet to answer them and help you guys out.
I got just some general questions for you, Brian, and I think I got the answer on at least 2 of these things, but I'm going to ask anyway to make sure I heard it properly. So if we do open enrollment, we don't have to go with them. I'm talking about the AI. If we
Okay,
run the,
so let's
okay.
say that we do open enrollment. If the rates stayed the same, you would probably go with them, otherwise why are we doing it?
Correct.
But let's just say that the rate changed. Whether it changes or doesn't change, you do not have to go with them.
Okay.
If you want to roll this out to the employees and say, look, we're looking at doing this, we want to hold open enrollment, maybe we hold open enrollment from June 1st to June 10th, we get that final census, we submit it, we get the rate. Let's say instead of 1.2 total premium, it goes to 1.4, and we say, look, call it off. We can always call it off before the effective date, so.
Okay, and so then the second question, and I think I heard you say this, and I was incorrect about my interpretation of it previously. So we could drop Blue Cross Blue Shield as early as July, if the angle is the way to go. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Technically speaking, and again, if we didn't go this route, we'll get it in writing from Blue Cross. So this is current today. Technically speaking, you do pay every month. So we could go to them and say, look, we're terming you June 30th at midnight. We found another provider. We just want to dot the I's and cross T's, get it in writing so that we have no issues. But yes, you are month to month, you pay each month. And so if we want to make a change, we could make a change.
So we would not make a double payment, a payment to Blue Cross in July, a payment to Blue Cross in August, and also to Angle. I just want to make sure.
Only do it
Okay,
if they allow us to terminate.
good deal.
Our understanding, we'll get it in writing, but our understanding is you're month to month, you pay each month, you can terminate at the end of any month.
Okay, and final one I have is, what do we technically have to do to say to you, let's go do the open enrollment? Do you need board action? What do you need?
Yeah. I think from my standpoint, all we need is let's do this, whether that's a board vote of saying, look, we're willing to, because really it would be the board paying a higher rate starting July instead of September. So if we want to wait until we have the final rate, but what we don't want to do is do this, go through open enrollment, the rate stays at 1.2 million, and then we say, oh, we don't want to do it.
Okay, so,
Kind of the impression is, if the rate holds, we want to do it. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a board vote. It can be just discussion. Ultimately, the board's going to vote on it. When the pricing comes back, we say, hey, there was no rate change. Are we good to go? They're going to say, yes, let's vote. So it's almost kind of an indication of saying, look, if we want it to be a vote, from my standpoint, I don't need a vote. Internally, if you guys say, hey, we want to have a vote that says we're going to do open enrollment, and if it holds, we'll be making a change so that we know this is all or not. We could have a vote and say, let's move forward with Angle, hold open enrollment, and move forward unless the rate changes, then we will reconvene. So it's more of an internal question. I just need let's do it, and we'll get to work.
Hey, Brian, this is Ryan Root. I wanted to confirm, so if we were to go with Angle, I just want to verify that it's an annual basis. We're not committed to anything outside of a year-to-year contract. Is that correct?
That's correct. They guarantee the rate for 12 months.
Yeah.
So it would be a 12-month agreement. If we started it July 1, then we'd run it through June. It's a 12-month agreement with Angle. Not to make it complicated, Angle does require a 12-month agreement, so it's not viewed as a month-to-month contract, whereas Blue Cross is month-to-month. But it is a 12-month, so they just like Blue Cross, they guarantee the rate for 12
well,
months.
it's going to be the 80/20. It's the same plan.
It doesn't, it has like different options.
That's good.
Okay. This is Casey, and I have a question. I just got on like Cigna's website to like search providers, and they were wanting to choose like a plan, and the options were, there was like a network POS, which has like Wichita, Kansas, and then an OAP. There's two choices under OAP, and then one choice under PPO. What one would somebody select to search what providers?
That's a great question. I'm sharing my screen, or I pull up the official quote to give that to you.
PPO.
I can do a follow-up email to Scott and Mike and say, here's the steps. Again, we can do the due diligence. We want to get Blue Cross to confirm that we can term. Those networks are very, very similar between the OAP and the PPO. I'd want to give you an exact answer, so I want to just double check with them, and then we could verify the network.
Okay.
On the information you have in your packet, it says Cigna PPO. So what you have in the book indicates PPO, but that could change based upon the open enrollment.
No, it wouldn't change. So I can't remember if I put in
Yeah, you did.
Can't remember if I put in the quote from Angle. I just want to confirm, because at the bottom it says Cigna PPO, but technically the OAP is a PPO as well. So I just want to triple check that I give you the proper answer.
Okay.
Again, if you search PPO and search OAP, they're going to be like 99% the same. I just would hate for somebody to look up their doctor and it be in one and not another. But I was just going to pull this up really quick. Yeah, I want to confirm with them if it's the OAP or the PPO, because technically they're both PPOs, but they do go by different names.
I don't know if there's other questions, but I personally, just in looking at this during the committee meeting and then again tonight, I mean, I really don't see that there's value and benefit to the ICHRA. I mean, I think it's not a good value, and it's not a good approach to take, in my opinion. I understand you're putting the option on the table. I don't see it as a viable solution. But I guess with that, I see that there's value. There's nothing lost in being able to go out and have an open enrollment there with Angle and at least explore what the options are that come back. You know what you have on the table there through Blue Cross.
Exactly.
I don't see any value lost in going out there through open enrollment there with Angle.
I mean, the fact that you can pull back out of it, you don't have to go that way. I mean, we'll get no answer. We'll get no answer if we don't ask.
My comment is this: there's no reason to go with the ICHRA today. I think where the ICHRA could come into play, and again, we're not even to that point, is if for some reason Angle comes in differently. That's why we don't want to be doing this on August 20th of getting the final census and saying, now what do we do? If it's August 20th, the answer is Blue Cross. By doing this for, let's say, July 1, and I'm just using that as an example, if we do it for July 1, and for some reason this becomes $2 million, and we say, okay, well now we go back to the drawing board, and it's, okay, Blue Cross at 1.6 total premium. Again, that would be 1.3 to the district, but 1.6 total premium. That's where we could say, okay, do we want to go back to the ICHRA? The ICHRA won't change because it's all age banded, but the real decision today, if we're going to kick the can down the road 30 days, 60 days, then it's ICHRA or Blue Cross. Today really is, do we want to try to get Angle to use the AI, less changes of people coming on and off, less chance of new data dumps being supplied that could trigger something. And then again, it's getting this done before our backs are against the wall. If Angle goes to 2 million and we were looking at this for July 1, that still gives us 60 days to then go back to the drawing board and say, do we even want to learn more? But today the answer is no. Like, why would we do no out of state for more money? It just doesn't make sense. If Angle's removed, we may go back to the drawing board, but today it does not make sense to spend more time on the ICHRA given where Angle's at.
and board, from my perspective, from the committee meeting, and then also all the conversations Mike and I have had with Brian as we continue to work this. And once again, I'm sure pleased that you're with us, Brian. Thank you for your expertise and ability to explain this to us in a clear manner. We don't live in the insurance world on a daily basis like you do. To me, it just makes perfect sense to go do the open enrollment. We've got Blue Cross sitting there. We know what that is. And we can just benefit from the other. And since I was incorrect about it being a double payment for those 2 months, it even makes it more of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, we'll get that, again, we can always back out if Blue Cross holds our feet to the fire. We'll push it back 60 days. But again, given that you're fully insured, you pay month to month, we've had no issues in the past getting Blue Cross to terminate it early. Blue Cross is a great company, so I don't want this to come off as, hey, they just lost $700,000 and they actually gave you the best renewal out of United, Cigna, Aetna, who all said we'd be higher than $600,000 increase. So this is not a smashing of Blue Cross or saying Blue Cross is not a good company. They lost $700,000 and gave you the best quote based off of everybody who uses prior claims. They gave you the best quote. It's trying to take advantage of getting a quote locked in for a year. If we don't like Angle's renewal next year, we'll probably be back to Blue Cross or United. Things could always change. A large claim comes off the plan and we run really good with Angle. But I'm being open, I think it's timing. That's why we're looking at a July 1 is we know that the 2 largest claimants are still on the plan today, but I think it's timing. I just don't think the database, and that's why we're trying to get this done earlier than later.
okay, well, Brian, we don't have an actual vote here, but I've got 7 people saying let's go. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and I'll follow up. Mike and I will follow up with you the next day or so to move forward with the open enrollment process.
Yeah, we'll create a nice, we'll have to think of the language to use, but we'll do the nice language memo to the employees so that they, hopefully a majority of them joined today. I know the link was sent out and encouraged, but we'll put a memo together that lets them know why we're looking at this. We can even express the losses that Blue Cross lost $700,000. I think if we present this in the right way, we present the summary of benefits, I'll get clarification on the PPO or the OAP. I just don't want to state it wrong since I'm on a Zoom and again, I'm not in my workspace to give it to you. So we'll say, here's the link that you can look up your doctor. And again, then we'll complete it, bring it back to the board for final approval of saying this is the final rate, and we'll go from there.
All righty, Brian, I appreciate it. Any other questions? I'll reach out to you tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thanks again, you guys. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Bye.
Get elected to school board. It'll be fun.
Any good news tonight?
Yeah, I know.
Hey, it's an election year too, so Jeff COVID.
Got that right. So,
Well, they say the absolute worst thing to do is to be the presenter right before lunch or right after lunch, but I think we might have a new definition of this, to have Jerry Johnson now present to us about standards-based grading after the last 2 sections that we've just gone through. Come on up, Jerry. We are at the end of, thank you, people who have come in person, thank you. People online, thank you. If you have questions about this, please ask. We're learning, and we're being as transparent as we possibly can about all this stuff. We're at the end of our first year, of full implementation of standards-based grading at the high school. It's been a 3-year process of acclimation. And I will tell you, this is a growing concern across the state. We've had several districts reach out to us to talk to Jerry and his crew about, what are you doing? How are you doing this? He presented formal presentations to the Northwest Kansas SUPS group and the Southwest Plains SUPS group. We got a Leadership for Tomorrow thing, KSB deal that came out to us back in October, November, somewhere along that line, which represented like 18 different districts from across the state, all very interested in this. And so Jerry's here just to kind of share with you our thoughts about what's been going on.
I gotta try to get my mouse back over here.
This place, a device from this place. All righty, Leon McDuff.
So I don't know how to follow up any of that insurance stuff, other than to say is sorry, and thank you guys for having to handle that and not us. Standards-based grading, we've had several presentations throughout the year. I don't want to take a whole long time going through this. This is the presentation that our teachers built in order to present to the Northwest superintendents and Southwest superintendents in Kansas. We were asked for these presentations, and the reason I think we're asked for these presentations is we were one of the first ones that kind of jumped out and started doing standards-based grading. If you look at KESA 2.0, the new accreditation model that's getting put in Kansas, one of the basic foundational structures is standard-aligned curriculum, standards-aligned curriculum. You have to be able to prove that your curriculum is standards-aligned. The best way to do that is to go through like a standards-based implementation. And so there's been a lot of districts who've reached out to us and said they're in the mode of trying to go to something that's similar to this, but want to know, but they're in the same boat that we were in 3 or 4 years ago. And so just kind of going through the presentation, this is what we did with the presentation. We started out by asking the questions of why did we go to standards-based? We talked through that here before. The biggest reason that we went to standards-based is MTSS came through and showed us our data. And our data didn't match up with what our GPAs were. And if we're looking at people that had really high GPAs, but their state assessment scores were low, FastBridge scores were low, and ACT scores were low, we need to take a look at what are we doing in order to say, how do we change the grade inflation, or how do we see where they're truly at and we can build that back up. And so that's kind of what we did. We talked through what our critical grading criteria is with the standards-based grading. We talked through how we implement it with our teachers from the start to the end of our different phases. This is the biggest one that they really wanted to see, was how did we get to this point where we actually fully implemented standards-based grading. There's a couple schools around us that have reached out and they're kind of really moving that way. Deerfield was one that actually it's the new superintendent. She was working at the Southwest Service Center. She asked for our guiding documents of how we implemented it for that. Pratt Skylines reached out. Ashland's reached out. There's been several other schools like Scott City's reached out to see what that looks like. And I know that Garden City's making the transition from the K2 to the 3-5 and then on the way up. Wichita Public Schools is in the middle school right now, implement it, and they're supposed to be going high school in the next couple of years with standards-based grading. This is our learning scale. We've talked about this several times before. The biggest things that we wanted to talk, Dr. Myers wanted me to bring back is what did our results look like? Most of you guys know that when I first came here at Holcomb, that I came as a football coach. I was a weights teacher. I have a background in athletics. To me, what we've done with standards-based grading this year is we had to change our culture. And the first thing that we had to do is we had to learn how to work harder. And I think the thing that we did this year, both students and staff, and I think staff members would tell you the exact same thing, is we had to both focus on student understanding and not just points and not just moving kids from point A to point B. We actually had to understand the material. And when you do that, it's tougher. It's more rigorous. And I think that's what you saw this year. Do we have it down the way that we need to have it down yet? No, we don't. Is it going to take a while for us to be at the level that to really be working efficiently? Yeah, but it's just like a team that's coming in and you're taking over a new team. When you implement a new policy or initiative or something, your very first thing is your culture has to align with what the vision is. And our culture is starting to align in the fact we have to work harder in order to get better state scores. And there's no doubt about that. And how do we know that took place? Because we all felt it. Our students were feeling it at the beginning. Some students are still feeling it now. Teachers are feeling it all the way through. Because whenever you take away just daily work, and a student can just turn in daily work or turn in just extra credit, and they actually have to understand what the material is asking them to do, it's tougher. And on the flip side of that, as a teacher, and I think you can talk to our teachers too, is we've gotten a habit as teaching in traditional grading is, well, they took chapter 3 tests, and if they didn't understand it, you can maybe do some corrections, but we're moving on. That's not the case now. They have to actually work so that the students can understand what the standards are too. And that's a frustrating thing. If the kids don't understand it and the teachers are trying to help them, there's this frustration and this strain that came through this year that we saw. That's a good thing. It's not fun to go through, but man, if we've ever gone through something that is changing, you have to go through the strain period of we have to work harder. And that's what we figured out this year. We have to work harder. And our kids rose to the challenge. By the end of the year, we had kids that were working harder than what they did at the beginning of the year. I would say 70 to 80% of our kids figured out that they had to work harder at it. Now, the next couple years, we have to get better on how we teach the material. We have to get better at, are we aligning our questioning at the level, depth of knowledge level that state assessments and ACTs are asking for? We do. We have to get better at that, but we have to start to align what that looks like with it. We're teaching the right stuff now, and we're teaching it at a tougher rate, I guess, or a tougher pace for the students. So we're getting better that way. Now we need to align it to what's the depth of knowledge that they're actually asking on some of these state testing. And I think that's when you're going to start to see the needle move with our academics. So we're good on our first step. I really applaud our staff and I applaud our students for stepping up. We have good kids right now. I had good kids that were bucking down and working harder, and it was tougher. I mean, I've got 4 kids in the district, and 2 of them are in high school, and they would come home and they'd say, yeah, well, it's just tougher. Yeah, I know. But if you want to be better, it has to be tougher. It has to be tougher if we want to be better. There's no way to ever get better and put out less work. Just no way.
Are we getting as far in the books? I mean, we're going chapter 1, or by the end of the year, we get into chapter 12, or are they stopping at chapter 4 and stuck there?
We're probably not getting through as much content, but we're understanding the content better that we're getting through. And so beforehand, you're right, we're probably not getting through as much of the curriculum, but at what percentage of understanding were we getting through that curriculum? Compared to we're understanding what we're getting through now at a higher rate. And how do we know that? Asking the teachers that. And basically what they're saying is they see the kids have a better understanding of what they're doing now compared to what they've done in the past.
I will tell you, from my standpoint, when this all came about 3 or 4 years ago, started talking about it, it took me a couple of years. I have trepidation about the homework part of this, because to me, that's just flat out a success skill. People call them soft skills. I don't. I call them success skills. Show up on time, do your work. Okay. And so I grappled with that continually. And I'm an old high school teacher. I know how it worked. We'd share, Matt, I'll do your own. What do you get for number 5? I'll do number 6, right? And so we got the answer. I don't know if I knew it. And then like Jerry alluded to, man, I got an 89 on that test. Okay, I'll see. In reality, I got a 79 on that test. I sure wish I had an 82. And I find out if I do a little bit extra credit, and whether it gets graded or not, I don't know. All of a sudden, played the game, I got it right. I got the grade, okay? But it sure as heck didn't show up on the standardized testing later on. I just earned a grade. That's just getting points, is what that is. But still, I had to go back to my trepidation, because clocking in, you show me somebody who clocks in every day on time and does stuff while they're there, chances are they're going to be successful. Homework was a piece of that for me. Then I finally heard it. Jason kept talking about it. Jerry kept talking about it. Finally, it got through my little brain. The success skill part of this are the learning plans. That's what it's for. That's what that is. It replaces the homework aspect of the success skill, because it's my responsibility. I've got to build that plan with that teacher to go back and reassess. You want to go any further into that, or did I say it well enough?
And the only thing, and I think maybe there are some areas that we could do improvement on those reassessment plans, is that they're similar across like an area. Like the English department kind of does them similar. So I think there's some wide variation from one teacher to the next of what is required in those learning plans.
Yeah, and like we said, is first time you put initiatives in, is just like that, like you're saying, is that's a good a good example of things that we need to go back and take a look at. First time you put an initiative in and you run it district-wide, you're going to start to see some of those. We have a whole list of things that I have written down of things that we have to work on as we go through. Same thing that we do is, man, we're working harder. So were we successful in year one? I think so. I think we're really successful and that kids are working harder than what they were before.
Yeah, I'd have to say, that's one area you really need to work on, is getting all your teachers in line, doing the same thing, because, I got a sophomore and a junior, and it varied quite a bit from teacher to teacher, department to department. And, one thing I seen on there was, less busy work. My junior, she, in a certain few classes, she had a lot of busy work still. It wasn't just the standards. So there's just two things I noticed throughout the year.
Now, and when they say that it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be doing daily work, right? It doesn't mean that that's an option for every single one of the class. Because the daily work that's your practice. And so they should be doing daily work with daily feedback every single day with it. It just means that it's not graded. Because when you start putting grades in for some of that daily work, that's where it skews whether we know your level of learning is actually up to here, or is if you can just turn in this daily work. Still having daily assignments and daily work every single day, that should be taking place.
I agree. But having a junior coloring sounds more like busy work,
We got you. And I wasn't trying to disagree with you on any specific, because I don't know what you're talking about. But sometimes we say, like when he was alluding to not having homework is still there. It's not that we want that to go away, because the practice still needs to be there.
Right.
I hated homework.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thanks, Jerry. All right, let's move to overnight trips.
All right, if you recall, the new legislative law that went into play this year, boards have to approve overnight trips. And so, we have a bunch. And so I asked, rather than bring them to you individually, and here's another presentation, talk to Chad about this, and he put together a nice spreadsheet. And what you have is listed by who it is asking for it, where they're going, what's the purpose of it, what's the expense, who's paying for it, and how many people are involved. In a nutshell, if it's a state-sponsored trip where the kids or the teams qualify to get there, we pay for it. The district pays for it. If it's everything else, clubs, camps, or new sort, they just want to go to that particular event, then a lot of fundraising pays for it. We always provide the transportation. So anyway, in efforts to streamline this, we put this together. And like I told him for next year, let's give us a grand one in August. It has potential, because then you will have done your job. You've approved them all, and just trust on us to make sure that it's going to be administrated properly. So you have 13 requests for you tonight for potential approval. We struck golf and swimming because no one happened to make it to state. So I recommend the board approve the requested overnight trips as presented. So moved.
Second.
Sean and Casey. Moved and seconded to approve the overnight trips as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Too late.
Getting a little late for you?
Still thinking about freaking insurance. All right, let's move to handbook approval.
All right, we're trying to finish up all the handbooks for you. You have 7 different handbooks to look at tonight. You have a nice little summation sheet that tells you all, there's not a lot of really big, huge changes. 2 things I do want to check out. I want to mention a couple things, I guess. In the classified handbook, we've heard feedback from our people repeatedly from the Soup of the Soup event of why don't we just have payday on the 15th of each month? Why does it float? I talked to Mike, and I don't know, because it does. And so one adjustment, we're going to make payday starting in July the 15th, henceforth nevermore. But it is in the handbook, so we had to make that. It needs to be, by doing this tonight, it becomes law. And literally, it is akin to state law, what the board does. Also, we're codifying the work comp claim procedure, where if anybody does get hurt, they have to go through Mike first in order to then go to the next step. And that's been successful in my mind's eye. And then there was information in the various handbooks about using Skyward instead of Meta for leaves, because Meta's going away, because that's tied to MAP. And so we wouldn't have that to use to clock in. So anyway, I recommend the board approve of the updated handbooks as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Ryan Ruda and Ryan Schreibogle. Been moved and seconded to approve the handbook approvals. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, new business, summer school.
As you know, the last couple of years, I've not been very pleased with our summer schools. It's not our effort. We work hard. We have people who work hard. It's just we weren't getting the results that we want out of it. And frankly, in the elementary world, my principals, said it's seen as a punishment. Well, that's not what it should be. That's not what it should be about. It should be extended learning opportunities for basically any kid. So we're going to put it on a hiatus and just study it, bring something back next year. Then Jerry and his group came forward and asked me, well, what if we have some students who are not on track to graduate? What could we do there? And so I said, yeah, go play with that. Let's see what we can come up with. So they've come forth with a summer school proposal just for the high school, just for the summer, where if a student qualifies to be in the summer school program, basically the person has to be past their sophomore year and not on track to graduate. So then he or she could come in and take 2 classes at a time throughout the summer, and if they pass them, move to the next one. They pass it, move to the next one. What's happened historically, I don't know if you guys know about this enough, but it used to be, I remember when I was student teaching, I had a kid in freshman, sophomore, and junior English simultaneously, because he kept failing all the classes. Well, nobody can pass 3 different English classes at once, in my mind's eye. So this allows them to chip away at it. We'd use Edgenuity. As per the negotiated agreement, we'd pay a teacher $1,800 to man the booth, if you will. Ultimately, it'll be a cost share type approach. District pay $150, family pays $150 per class. This year we've got, since it came along so late, people haven't had the opportunity to budget for it. Ultimately, we'd want to do the $150 and have a sliding scale tied to free and reduced lunch, but not for this year. The proposal is for us just to pay for it. We'll utilize ESSER dollars, so it's no money out of our pocket, if you will. So I recommend board approval of the high school summer school proposal for the summer of 2024.
So moved. Second.
Casey and Jill. Moved and seconded to approve the Holcomb Summer School proposal as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do we have any kind of number, what that might be?
One right now that I know of.
Just one?
You have any others besides the one?
Yeah.
You have a few more?
Yeah.
We're looking at
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
If they take.
Saying not on track to graduate means that they're not in the progression of having Algebra 1 geometry and like Algebra 2. It means that they're having the possibility of doubling up math class, core classes.
But once again, we're not making them do this. So if you have 18, statistics tells me 12 will show, but I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. All right. 2024-25 school calendar adjustment.
Every 5 years, Acacia adjusts their calendar of events. It shifts due to the equinox. I don't know. Halley's Comet. I don't know. But it does. It shifts. And so when we put together our calendar 2 years ago for this next coming year, I just didn't take that into account. And so currently, the approved calendar shows April 17 as Professional Learning Day. And that's where the big track meet sits too. Well, something occurred with the Acacia calendar that Chad said to me, hey, is there any way we can change that? And so the proposal is, got to looking at it, pulled together an ad hoc calendar committee, said, is there any issue making this change? I said, no, it's just the same thing. Just move the Professional Learning Day from April 17 to April 25. So I've written you a proposed motion. If somebody would like to do that, I recommend that you do it.
I move to adjust the approved 2024-25 school calendar by moving Professional Learning Day on Thursday, April 17th to Friday, April 25th.
Second.
Ryan, Ruda, and Jill. Been moved and seconded to approve the percentage adjustment to the 24-25 school calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, summer food service program.
Before I do this next one, I do want to give a kudos to Dr. Ruda for how well he presented that last motion.
He did a
That's very well
wonderful
done.
job.
Very eloquent. Yeah.
That's why he's a doctor.
I practiced a couple times today.
Go ahead, Matt, I'm sorry.
Oh, you go ahead.
You already introduced it. Summer food service program. For 8 years, for the past 8 summers, we've been doing this. Basically allows us to feed kids for free in the summer. When we put this thing together, the times we needed to be approved by the KSD for the breakfast, they just had not occurred because we put this out the door before they got to us. Now I understand they have approved it, so it's all good. So I recommend the board continue the summer meal program as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Jill and Curtis. It's been moved and seconded to approve the summer meal program as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, executive session,
I think you need 30 minutes, man.
30 minutes.
To include you can go for 20 and then extend it. You can go for 10 and extend it.
30 include you and
Principals and Julie.
And Julie.
Yeah.
No.
The problem with going long, if you finish early,
Yeah, then you're twiddling.
We never
Let's sit here
finish
and do
early.
this. I know.
Haven't
Never
yet.
have.
Top fast for your questions.
All right, let's see. I need a motion to approve going into executive session at 9:10 for 30 minutes to include Dr. Myers, principals, and Julie,
As needed.
as needed.
So moved.
Second.
It's Jill and Curtis. Been moved and seconded to go into executive session as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Just so you know, Jerry, we'll start with you when the time comes. Talk.
Okay, we're back in session. I need a motion to hire Olivia Ortega as a first grade teacher. Dang it, I missed one.
So moved. Second.
Ryan Schreivogel and Ryan Ruda. It's been moved and seconded to hire Olivia. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Bless you, Curtis. Okay, I need a motion to hire Guadalupe Hernandez as a 5th through 12th grade band.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
So we're going to go with Sean and Jill. Sorry, Curtis. Moved and seconded to hire Guadalupe Hernandez as the 5th through 12th band instructor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I need a motion to hire Brett Novak as the middle school art teacher.
So moved.
Second.
Ryan, Ruda, and Curtis. Moved and seconded to hire Brett as the middle school art teacher. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to hire Rebecca Stevenson as a 3rd grade teacher.
So moved.
Second.
Schreivogel and Curtis. Moved and seconded to hire Rebecca Stevenson. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, I need a motion to hire Shaylee Morford as a 3rd grade teacher.
So moved.
Second.
Sean and Jill. It's been moved and seconded to hire Shaylee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I need a motion to hire Rachel Davis as the high school interventionist for the 24-25 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Ruda and Schreivogel. It's been moved and seconded to hire Rachel. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I need a motion to hire all the supplementals pending background checks as presented and also all the summer help as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Jill and Sean. Moved and seconded to hire personnel, supplementals, and summer help. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did you do Merrill Jones? Oh, jeez. Now I need a motion to hire Merrill Jones as the district laptop and Chromebook technician.
So moved. Second.
Ruda and Curtis. Moved and seconded to hire Merrill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, did I forget anybody else?
You got a thumbs up now, President Jones.
I'm good?
You took care of it.
All right, so we need a motion to adjourn, don't
Yep.
we? That was Jill that moved to adjourn,
Second.
and that's Ryan Shrivogel. Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?